This is the basketball show. What they gonna say next?
Hello, you're watching another episode of The Basketball Show, proudly brought to you by TCL, 2K and News Corp. I'm Jo Healy. This, of course, is Shane the Hammer Heel. How are you doing?
How you going, Joe?
Very well.
Shane the Hammer today.
We are. We're also going in the spotlight today.
Ooh.
The Opals team was announced this past week. Yeah, congratulations to all the girls that were selected.
Yep, definitely. Big congrats. Them and their families.
Yeah,
would be very proud.
the Opals always do really, really well.
Yep.
There
Medal
are a
again.
couple of selection surprises. Is that the right word?
Oh, I think if you asked 5 WNBL coaches to pick a team, you could get 5 different scenarios.
Yeah.
Everyone could pick different.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and we know there's a lot of depth and all the rest of it. A few surprises. I'm not even going to go anywhere near my daughter. I'm not going to rain on anyone's parade because, again, it's a proud moment for all of the players. Lauren Nicholson, though, was a big surprise for me.
Yeah.
She really was. I mean, she was second in MVP, second in Defensive Player of the Year, and helped Townsville go from bottom to the grand final. I thought she was sensational in the WNBL season. Big surprise there. And I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall just with the discussions. And it would have been a robust discussion, I reckon, between Sammy Whitcomb and Leilani Mitchell. Leilani has been just an unbelievable point guard for a long, long time. And but Sammy Whitcomb, the way she's shooting the ball, she looks the fittest I've ever seen her. And if you cast your mind back to when the Opals lost to America, they really needed three-point shooting. Mm-hmm. Sammy Whitcomb shooting the ball at 47% in the WNBA this year. Thought she may have got an opportunity, but interesting.
Do you think the fact that she didn't play for the last few months because of her family situation had anything to do with the decision?
No, well, she went to Europe. She went and played in Europe before the WNBA, so she was well and truly, on track.
Yep.
And interesting. Again, there's no right and wrong, and we'll work out what happens when they go to the Olympics and see how they go. But obviously Sandy has said this is a team that can win that gold medal.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
The oldest team.
They're not planning for the future at all.
No, it's the oldest team, almost 30 years of age on average. So they think that there's an opportunity to be able to win a gold medal. So, we'll see. Good luck to them. Obviously, we'll be supporting them all the way, but there's a few disappointments in there as well.
Yeah, I know you don't want to talk about Shy. I'm allowed to, though. I'll just put this to you. If Josh Giddey goes at number 8 in the NBA draft this year and isn't taken by Brian Goorjian with the Boomers, there would be outrage.
Well,
I think.
I've been a believer that Josh should go.
Yep.
I think they have to have one eye on the future. And I think they will. I think they will take him. So we'll see.
I think they should have taken Shy in the exact same scenario.
Well, I think Shy could have actually contributed now.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Josh will probably go as 11th or 12th.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Shy's ready to contribute now.
Yeah.
But again, she's got plenty of years to go. So,
She
sometimes
does.
when you miss out on a few teams, it makes you hungry. You got to work harder. And,
Yep.
unfortunately, that's life.
All right, let's move on. We'll get into our TCL starting 5. It's all about the NBA playoffs.
It is.
My team are already out of the first round. Damn it.
Not only out, they got
I know. Do you know what?
swept out.
I caught up with a mate who's a Bucks fan the other night.
Crowing? Was he crowing?
We decided that it's one apiece. We're even after last year, so I could deal with that. Portland, Denver first. It's 2 apiece there. Where do you see that going?
I think Portland.
Okay.
Portland's going to get it done. I really do. I just think they're going to come up big when it counts. They need people who can put the ball in the hole, and I think that's exactly what Portland do.
You don't think the MVP can lead the Nuggets?
Well, I think he needs some help. I just don't think he's got enough help. I mean, he's been putting up unbelievable numbers. He's always going to be a matchup problem for any team that he plays against. But, I just think Portland's going to get over on that one.
The Suns and Lakers.
Oh,
So this is awesome. It's
Curveball.
gone to 2-2. AD injured for the Lakers, which is huge
curveball.
for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's it going?
Well, I would have said the Lakers with AD, but,
Yeah.
he's a bit soft, isn't he? I mean, this is probably a groin injury, but I was watching his game on the weekend. He got a little elbow to the nose. Wanted to run out and give him a hug. It's a bit soft. I hope Phoenix win. I really do.
Yeah,
I love Booker.
I'm kind of with you.
Booker's
Yeah.
a gun. And Chris Paul.
We're Aussies. We just like the
Underdog?
underdogs.
Yeah.
Chris Paul, though, shout out to him, who's literally playing with one arm because of his shoulder injury.
He's a freak.
Almost cried the other day after the game talking to Rachel Nichols just about the passion and the commitment that this group have. So it would be nice to see them do well.
He's done so well. Yeah, I think they will now.
Joey Ingles and the Jazz.
Come on, Joey.
They stumbled in that first game, but they're back. They're 2-1 over Memphis now. They're going to cruise through this from here, right?
Yeah, they will. Whilst I've been barracking for the Jazz, how good is it with Memphis? I actually like that they've come from outside the 8. They've found a way to get in, won that first game on the road to the Jazz. They're fearless. They play quick. They're hard.
Yeah.
I really like the way they play, but obviously I'm Jazz.
I know. This won't be their year, but they're building.
Yeah, one game. We're happy for him to get one game, and then the Jazz can move on and, jump and joke and do his thing.
Finally, Dallas and the Clippers, 2 apiece.
Oh, you just think that the Clippers are going to have too much experience. Just think. I hope not.
Yeah.
Again, I'd love to see Luka win it.
I'm such a Luka Doncic fan.
Me too, but I don't think they will, unfortunately.
Game 4 wasn't his best, but that's all right.
No, he's going to have those games. Geez, he's had some big ones, though.
Yeah.
And with all the pressure on him and, the talent of the Clippers, trying to bounce back after what was a disaster last year, you expected they were going to be better.
Yeah.
And, the Mavs have done really well, but I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done over this series.
Well, the Clips veterans, as you say, are leading them. Kawhi Leonard has already told the club that he's not going to be there next year.
I said this a month ago, didn't I?
How detrimental is that to potentially this playoff run?
Very much so. If you think that your superstar's checked out after he was going there, after checking out on San Antonio, goes, wins the championships, then tries to bring a team together to be able to win it at LA. They poke themselves in the eye, big failure, and now already he's looking at where he's going to be able to move to next. And Paul George next to him, it's like, nah, not for me.
Not working?
Cut it out.
Where can you see him going?
Oh, who knows? This is the problem, isn't it? They can just create
his
these
background,
power
he'll
teams.
probably go and
How
join the
about you
Nets?
stay somewhere and try and build something? Like San Antonio maybe.
Yeah, but look where that's got them.
Yeah, but if he had stayed at San Antonio, maybe he would have got championships and that level of consistency anyway.
Maybe.
He's going chasing it. I hate how they're just going to chase it.
No?
Stay there and build.
You never would have done that?
Well, I said no to the Melbourne Tigers in the prime of my career to go there with Drewy and Copes and Bradkey for that exact reason that I didn't want to play with a team that I felt like we would have won it. I wanted to go back to Sydney, and it took 3 to 4 years.
Doesn't everyone have a price though?
It was exactly the same price for me. So
exactly. So if
exactly
they
the same.
doubled it or tripled it,
well, they were never going to double it or triple it. But I still
We
had a
digress
decision.
anyway.
You take the easy, the low hanging fruit, or do you go and try and win one and build one? That was the hardest thing. 2 years into my Sydney thing, I was thinking, why did I do that? But we eventually got there. It was worth it.
Well, it's time to go in depth thanks to 2K. This week we are joined by NBA champion, #1 draft pick, NBL MVP, along with a multitude of other accolades. Andrew Bogut, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Good yourself. What's going on? Shane, Joe?
Everything is very good. Now, I'll start with the NBL. We understand that you've taken up your ownership with the Kings. Can you talk to us about how that came about? Because at one point it seemed like it might not happen.
A little back and forth, a little bit of fun with it early on. But yeah, it's in my employment agreement that I signed back in 2018. So thought we'll take up the shares and get actively involved. Obviously, retiring from basketball and not being involved in that capacity has been a little bit hard to adjust, not being in the locker room and whatnot. But this is the exciting next phase. So it's all official and stamped, and we've let the league know, and it's public knowledge now. So I'm excited to continue to build what we have the last 2-3 years and get Sydney to be the premier NBL club like it was back in the day.
Just smoke the peace pipe with Larry and mean you're going to be cheerleading with Homicide now about the NBL?
I don't know about all that, but look, I want the league to do well. I want the NBL to do well. I want the Sydney Kings to do well, and there will be times where I will voice my opinion if need be. I will take it to the NBL and to Larry if it has to be. But there are times, it does fall on deaf ears, and then I might, voice it publicly. But, it's mainly stuff around player safety, the decals, those kind of things I'm happy to talk about. And I don't think having, some back and forth that gets a bit heated between league owners and the league boss and the league GM is a bad thing. I think you have to have those kind of conversations in any business for it to excel. And sometimes I might hear something I don't like, and the GM of the league might hear something the same way. But to progress, you got to keep trying to, kick him from 50, 60 meters out or hit that long three. You got to continue to try, and you got to make mistakes along the way.
How much input will you have on the team itself in terms of rosters and things like that?
A fair bit. Look, we have a pretty good group. Myself and Luke Longley, obviously, are probably more the basketball brains, along with Chris Pongrass, obviously. So that's kind of the three guys. We're in a process of obviously finding a coach again. So that's probably the priority. Free agency is pretty hard to get into without an official coach for next season. So we're going to tick that box first. And yeah, I'm involved. Look, I give my opinion on things, and most times they take it, sometimes they don't. Longley's the same kind of guy, and me and Longley are probably the opposite spectrums. He's more cool, calm, collected at times, and I'm kind of the fiery. But I tell you what, Luke, with his old age, he's starting to get fired up just as much. So it's been pretty fun.
I'd love to be in some of those meetings. But what have you made of the NBL season? Obviously, it started late. It's gone a long time. But what have you made of it?
Look, it's been, I probably can't swear on this show. Let's call it a poo sandwich for everyone in the world. So you have to kind of adapt, and it hasn't been, perfect, and nothing has. No league has. Look, the AFL's gone through, the NRL, everyone's gone through the same thing. It's probably gone longer than it should have, but there's no other alternatives. I think the hub obviously stretched the league out a little bit more, pushed us now to footy territory, and I'm okay competing with footy, but I just think the season probably has gone a little bit too long for fan engagement. Fans have probably seen enough basketball, and it is roaring into finals. So hopefully we get that back. But with the hand that you dealt, there's no right way. It's foreign territory for everyone. Larry and the NBL have done the best they can, and they've salvaged a season. Players were still getting paid, although not 100% of their salaries. They're still out there playing, rather than having a season cancelled like we've seen in some conferences in college, some leagues in Europe haven't even had games. So we have to be thankful for that.
We are finally getting to the end of the regular season. The Kings had that insane double overtime win over Melbourne. Sean Bruce, the absolute superstar in that one. Do you think that they can make the top four with another game to play?
It's going to be tough. Look, we have to have results go our way. We have a big game against Illawarra, which gives if we lose that one, we're out, obviously. But, if we win that one, we're still right there. And then we have to obviously take care of business against Brisbane. So you never want to be in a position where you're relying on other results to go your way. That's the unfortunate predicament that we're in. And all we can do is try to win these next two games. That United one was huge. If we lose that one, we're out. So to win that game was big, and United, championship favourites. So it shows with our roster healthy, we believe, we're a top 2, top 3 team in this league. We just haven't been able to keep our guys healthy. We lose DJ to an Achilles. Xavier Cooks has been out for most of the season. We had lineups out there and guys playing minutes that were penciled in as guys that were going to be 5 to 6, 7 minute rotation guys playing 30 minutes and still competing. So credit to the guys and everyone involved that they haven't given up, and they could have pulled the pin 2 months ago and been like, hey, we've got too many injuries. It's just too hard. Let's look to next season. And we have to credit everyone involved in that club that we've continued to battle.
And United's obviously got the most talent. They'll probably finish on top. Cotton out at Perth. Can anyone beat United over a series?
Well, if it isn't us, yeah. It's tough. Look, they're very, very well balanced. They just have such a good mix. You look at the scoring they have with Goulding and Jock, and then you've got defenders like Ely and McCarron can do a bit of everything. Even Peatling, I've been very impressed with the way he's played. He's come out of nowhere. Didn't know a whole lot about him. He's been really good for him. Achul, shoots it every time he touches it, but they need that off the bench. He's very, very aggressive. They just have a really good balanced roster. But the pressure is on them. They're supposed to win it this season. So if they don't, it's a failure of a year for them. Perth now with Bryce going down. I'm still trying to figure out if this is a Trevor mind game, but the more I'm researching and reading, I'm understanding it's a pretty significant injury for Bryce. So it could be the season. But the wording was a bit peculiar. It was he's out for the rest of the regular season. So I'm kind of thinking, is this a Trev mind game? You always have to think about that with Perth.
Most definitely. Hey, I want to ask about the transition from NBL to NBA. We've seen Cam Oliver this year. We know Josh Giddey is set for the draft. Can you see anybody else playing at the moment that could potentially make that jump as well?
The obvious one is Jock Landale. I mean, I think he's had NBA offers over the last couple of years, and it just hasn't worked out. I'm pretty sure he had something in the pipeline right before last season when they actually locked down the NBA season for a bit. He had something in the works as far as a 10-day. The Warriors called me about him, and they were really interested as well. So he's probably the one you'd put all your money on right now. Scott Machado is always floating around, a G League NBA fringe guy as well, but he's getting up there in age. So I'd definitely go Jock Landale right now to be that guy. And obviously, Josh Giddey is going in the draft next season too.
Let's talk NBA, mate. It's playoff time. Who do you see making the final of the East, and who wins it from there? And the final of the West, who wins it from there? And overall, mate, put your crystal ball right out in front of us.
Well, if you listen to the podcast that I do, myself and Pro, we're absolutely horrible at predictions. Like we had Miami beating Milwaukee, and they got swept 4-0. So take these with a grain of salt, please. I have out east, I think Brooklyn, Philly in the conference finals. I think that's going to be the closest series than most people think. I just like Philly because they have a lot of length and can defend the Brooklyn Nets. So I still think Brooklyn's talent gets them through, so I'll pick them in that side, but I think it'll be a close series, 6 or 7. Out west, I have no idea, to be honest with you, out west right now. It's just so open. I like Utah, but I think Utah have to rely on Donovan to score a lot individually, because I think when they move the ball well, but in a playoff series, late game, late quarter, you have to have a one-on-one ISO guy, and that's Donovan for them. So that's a lot of pressure on him. I'd like to see Utah in the conference finals, and I think the Lakers, depending on how this AD injury is, will be there somewhere. But if I have to guess, I'd say Utah, Lakers, and the Lakers will get through and play Brooklyn in the finals, because I know the league would love that.
Is it crazy to think that we could have 2 Aussies or 3 Aussies playing against each other in the finals?
I mean, we've come a long way, haven't we? I mean, back from Hammer's days in the NBA with his stint, and Luke Longley being probably the pioneer of Australians in the NBA for 10, 11, 12 years, the only one that was there long-term, really, to where we are today. I mean, it's fantastic for a country of 25 million people, and you're always greedy and you want 30, 40, 50 NBA players from Australia one day. But where we're at now, there's no one in their right mind that would have predicted this 15, 20 years ago.
One from left field. Is there anything of the rules of the NBA you'd like to be seeing introduced back to the NBL that would make our game better?
I like the coaches challenge. I liked what they had in the hub. I think that should be a rule. I think you should get one coaches challenge a game. And like tennis, you get it right, you keep it. I think it's a great thing. It holds everyone accountable. And it also, on the flip side, if coaches are complaining and constantly in the referee's ear and they make a coach's challenge and they get it wrong, the referee can be like, mate, sit down. So I like the coach's challenge. I think the NBL needs to get rid of the in-game reviews it's not great for TV. And I think the tweak might be maybe make it the last 2 minutes of each quarter. I don't know what the tweak is, but, the other thing is, what goes to review, what doesn't? Is it if 5 players are doing this, do we go to review? If Dean Dickerman's yelling and screaming, do we go to review? Because there's been times where there's been questionable calls, players are doing this, and the referee's like, nah, we're not going to review. So I don't know if there's a quota of how many they can do, but I think it's slowing the game down too much. I know we want to get calls right, but not for 40 odd minutes a game. I think it just slows it down too much. Well,
as always, for points made, let's bring in former NBL MVP Derrick Rucker. Derrick, I'm going to start with some tough news. The Aussie women's 3-on-3 team missed out on Olympic qualification. They went down to Spain in the quarterfinals. Alice Koenig missed that layup with about 10 seconds to go, the poor thing. I've got to ask, have you got any shots that you'll take to the grave with you?
Oh, Joe, well, welcome to you also. Of course I do. I remember playing my junior season at Davidson. We were in the conference tournament to qualify for March Madness, and I'd had a great tournament in the lead up to the final game. Shane, I missed 3 breakaway layups, went 5 for 19, and we lost in overtime by 1 and missed out on the NCAA selection. I will never, ever forget that. And unfortunately, the Aussie girls did a great job, and Alice was in the unfortunate situation where she missed that layup, but that's life. We've got to move on and try and achieve greater things. What about you?
Yeah, well done to the girls and our very own Keely Froling from the Flames. So they all represented our country very well, but unfortunately we've all got those games, and we all find it hard to be able to get rid of them. But in 2004, I had to hit a big shot. I think it was against Puerto Rico to make the top 8. And I remember Gorgian calling a timeout. We ran the play perfectly, nice little flare pick, open shot, rimmed out. I remember in tears sitting with Maddie Nielsen, just sobbing about missing that shot and costing us a top 8 finish in a little place in Glyph. So, not good.
Just on the 3-on-3 stuff there, guys, do you think BA missed the boat in terms of this Olympic campaign, and obviously the flights that they missed out initially as well? It feels like it's been a bit of a shambles.
Well, naturally, we're not privy to all the information, Shane, but I just thought arriving over the weekend for that start was a bit late for the girls. You're flying, that's a long flight over to Austria. A lot of different changes, a lot of different time zones. And I would think that the girls realistically would have needed to have been there a full week prior. Now, I don't know if there were restrictions in terms of finances or what, but, and then missing that extra day was rough as well.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like it was too well organised. And, 3-on-3 is a serious game now. We need to treat it seriously. They need the same preparation. And the selections need to come into play as well. You look at the Americans with WNBA players that are going to represent. So I think they need to just sort of put it all out and really come up with a better way forward, and give us a chance to be able to first go to the Olympics and then find players to have that success.
All right, guys, Tyler Harvey has been on fire for the Hawks recently. I think he had 23 and 30. There have even been calls to say that he should be in the NBA, though. Hammer, is he that good?
By who? By who? Yeah, he's better than Jessup. There's no doubt about that. And, he can score. He's a good player. He's got a great floater, probably the best floater we've seen. He can really get his shot off from deep. We know that. He's about the same size as a jumps jockey as far as weight goes. So he's not overly strong, and he's going to have to get a win, just one win in the playoffs for me to say that he's been a great import this year. And I'm not sure that they're going to be able to get that done.
I'm surprised by the angle that you've taken with respect to him. I thought you would have more criticism of his ability to lead a team and not being a true point guard at that size. And I think that's the thing that would hurt him ultimately in trying to stick in an NBA. Now, look, we know he can score, but can you handle the physical nature of the NBA? I'm not so sure. I agree with you, though. He needs to produce in these final couple of games to get the Hawks into the playoffs. And it would be great to see him go off in the playoffs, but I've got some doubts about whether he could stick in the NBA. But he's very
I'm not even evaluating him as a point guard, D. He's not a point guard. He was signed as a point guard, but we knew very early on he's not a point guard. Not even close.
Scorer.
Yeah.
He's a prolific scorer.
And just because he scores doesn't mean he's not a point guard, because we know there's great players that can score and create and everything, but it's just not in his mindset. He's not an organizer. He just doesn't play with that sort of game.
Let me ask you this. Who's more of a point guard? Who has more point guard in them? Tyler or Bryce?
Well, I think they're both two guards. I think they're both score first, but I think that Bryce Cotton could easily translate into a point guard if he was given that role and he had to be able to get it done. Whereas I just don't think it's as natural, and it wouldn't be as easy transition for Tyler. You?
Yeah, I agree. I think Bryce he seems to be a bit more adaptable with his game. It looks like he has played some point and run a team from time to time. So I'd agree with you on that one. Yeah, Bryce Cotter would be more of a point for mine, but neither of them are true scoring point guards as we know the term.
All right, guys, there was an incredible game over the weekend. Melbourne United and Sydney Kings. The Kings getting up in double overtime. I want to ask you, though, when overtime came around, all of a sudden Chris Goulding wasn't on the floor for Melbourne United. I was scratching my head a little bit. I know the commentators mentioned it as well. Hammer, any ideas as to why that might be the case?
Well, my guys, Liam and Peter was asking the question, should he be on? And I had to jump in from the sidelines. I couldn't believe it. Why wouldn't he be on? Why wouldn't Chris Goulding at crunch time be on? He is the best shooter in the entire NBL, and he does it at crunch time. And sure, you might say, okay, well, we're going to go with a few defenders, but you got to score. You got to balance your roster with scoring and defense at the same time. And guys that have belief when it gets to the end of the game. Not everyone has that belief to be able to knock it down in crunch time, and he definitely should have been on.
Well, I'm not sure who the best shooter in the NBL is, according to you. One week is Corey Webster. The next week is Chris Goulding. Another time is Clint Steindl. You need to make up your mind who the best shooter is.
Well, you've never heard me say Clint Steindl. But anyway, I would say that Corey Webster's up there and Chris Goulding's probably the best.
When a guy isn't getting the minutes he deserves. Now, you look at that box score from the other night, Shane. There were 50 total minutes for each player, okay? Chris played 36 minutes, I believe. That is far underneath what he should be playing. I think, and this might rile some people up, I think there's a problem between he and Dean Vickerman. And I like Dean Vickerman a lot. He's been on the Derrick Rucker podcast a couple of times. He's a really good coach. But for some reason this season, it seems like Goulding gets yanked out either when he's not deserving, when he's on a hot streak, or he just plays limited minutes. And I don't know what's going on there. Look, I've been on the end of not being liked by a coach. I thought for sure Gordy McLeod didn't enjoy me having success. That's a whole nother story for another time. Perhaps I can get a couple paragraphs in that book of yours that's coming out.
Hammer, what about you? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Not really.
No. He hated all the coaches.
Of course he has.
The coaches never got a chance to hate him. He hated everyone.
I was pretty lucky. I sort of wasn't in Derrick's situation where I felt like the coach didn't want me to succeed. But no, and I did see that though with you, D. And it mustn't be. It's not a great feeling that if you're the main scorer and the point guard, someone like Gordy probably felt a little bit like that. And did you feel like because he was a pass first point guard, maybe he didn't relate to you as much?
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good rationale for it. But, as a coach, and you're about to face this, it's tough. You can't love everyone on your team, but somehow you've got to overcome your personal feelings to do what's best for the franchise and for the club. And even that person, if you don't really vibe with them the way you'd like to, you've still got to figure out a way to be professional and get the most out of that player for the betterment of the team. Good luck to you this season.
So this wasn't necessarily meant to be a segue, but it kind of is to an extent. I want to ask you about Mojave King. He's played his last game for the Taipans. He's not seen a lot of court time this year. D-Ruck, how do you assess the way that he's been used this season?
Terrible.
Straight up?
Well, I think he's being paid by Moldovan, though, isn't he? Derrick Rucker.
I'm not getting paid.
I think he's
I'm
on that.
Old man.
He's
I'm
on that gravy train.
No.
You're going to be his personal trainer in the NBA as well? His voice?
No. I'm self-made. I'm my own man. And I said it from the jump. Mo King did enough in the preseason to have earned equity with the coaching staff. Then when the regular season came, all of a sudden he had a tough time finding minutes. Now, look, at times he didn't perform. It's not all on the coaching staff. Sometimes Mo did not get the job done. That's fact. However, I thought that at the end of the season, when you started to get regular minutes into his legs, we saw what he was capable of. And it's a shame that it was done too late. And I also was calling for Jawai to play earlier in the year, too. You said he was done. Jawai's got some game left.
Say he was done? Not at all. And I think the Kings an NBA talent, no doubt about it. But you're right. It was tough for him early days, couldn't get any momentum, then really got benched. And now we've seen it when, the pressure's off. We've seen that he's a great athlete and he's shown glimpses of what we think he's going to be. I think he needs another year in the NBL, and I think he needs to be with someone that's prepared to actually commit to giving him 25 minutes a game to see whether he can make that step and get drafted into the NBA.
But Shane, isn't it a 2-year deal with the Next Stars program?
Well, it might be, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be there because it doesn't sound like they're very happy. Are they? You think he's going to be there? Okay. Okay.
Not sure. It is a 2-year deal with the Next Stars program, Derek, and it might be difficult for them to move him on, but time will tell. We'll see what happens.
New coach might be different.
Exactly right. We'll see. We'll see. Derek, thanks so much as always. We'll speak to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
On you, D.
All right, that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you, as always, to TCL, 2K and News Corp. Hammer, this time next week, we will finally have an end to our NBL regular season.
It's like Groundhog Day.
We'll know our top 4.
This is the longest season in the history of seasons.
I'm so excited for finals.
And then before you know it, the finals will be gone and we'll pre-season already. But top 5, Joe, has to be Casper Ware to a Xavier Cooks.
It was pretty, wasn't it?
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's it? Did I get it?
Xavier was almost like behind the,
it was great.
the backboard.
It's good to see him back too.
Yeah.
And what would have been if he had been there for the whole year? Kings wouldn't have been just tinkering with the top 4 now.
No, exactly right. Well, we'll find out next week whether they're there and hopefully you can have
Fingers
an impact.
crossed. Let's see.
All right, we'll see you next week. See you guys next week too. Justin Simon is kicking us off this week. He took it upon himself to ice the Hawks' win over the Breakers.
And now Simon will go and put it down with 2 hands.
He's had another excellent game, 13 points, 8 rebounds, and finishes with the exclamation point there.
We got another glimpse of what Mojave King can do when he dropped a career-high 25 points against the Bullets, including this finish at the rim.
Machado just picks the pocket and leaves it for Machado. And the flash, but also the opportunity to play more minutes.
All hail the buzzer beater at number 3. And even though he didn't show it, Jack McVeigh would have been loving this.
Half court. Got it! Yes, he did. It's back to 19. McVeigh nonchalantly walks up.
At number 2, Luke Travers found himself with the open lane. The Wildcats DP took no prisoners en route to the bucket.
Late in the third. Luke Travers, up he goes.
Last few weeks, man, Luke Travers, he is just blossoming into something that I think Trev Gleeson knew all along.
And finally, Xavier Cooks was up and about early in the Kings' double overtime win against Melbourne, and he was happy to be on the receiving end of this from Casper Ware.
Ware throws it up! Xavier Cooks does the rest! Wow!
Goodness.
What a catch from Xavier Cooks. One hand, kind of tucked behind the rim there. Cooks.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sport.